let's get this master cylinder apart here. What our goal is to get down into this plunger here, and you can see this thing's pretty nasty, right? So first off, you know it's been leaking. The other thing I can see is a tear right here in this boot, so the thing is I don't have to be real fragile with it. There's another clue on this one though, looking at this right now, that really bothers me. Do you see that divot right in the middle?
Yep.
So that means that the brake lever was literally banging around this way, and this screw was banging against that, so it means that there was probably an excessive amount of free play in here, and so this was able to sit and vibrate and bang the end of that piston. When we do our rebuild kit, we get a new one, so we don't have to worry about it, but that's a reason you want to have this set up. If you have an excessive amount of play here, when the customer grabs the brake, do you see the delay?
Yeah.
So that's what this adjuster is we can set that, and there's a specification in the manual. So we're gonna take a look at this, and I'm gonna try and see what I can do to get this thing apart. One thing we've done is we printed the microfiche. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just start to clean it out first as much as I can. Motion Pro, these guys rock. Master cylinder ring pliers. The only thing is, I like to grind that edge off so that's not round anymore, so that I can slip through this bore with more clearance. All right, I'm just gonna keep kind of digging this out here. All right, there it is. So this rubber, this is more like a dust seal. It's not a fluid seal. This is not meant to hold the brake fluid into the master cylinder. This is just to keep the outside dust off of the dang people that power wash their bikes and ride in the pouring rain, right? Okay, so I'll just set that to the side. Now, look down in there.
Oh, I see it now.
Can you barely see it back in the corner here?
Yep.
Now that I know where the ears are, I'm gonna get this stable like so. Okay, watch it.
Yeah.
And this is something I always recommend, is that you lay your stuff out just like your parts fish. So you can see here, the way the parts fish is laid compared to where my master cylinder is, I have to hold it like this right now, so that I have the master cylinder in the same position. I pull my piston out, there's my dust seal, there's my snap ring, and I should have another piece. Stick a little bit, I got it. When you get a rebuild kit, they don't install the seals. I'm gonna have you guys get to this point here, but let's take a look at this wrapper here. So I'm kind of doing an inventory of pieces here, whatnot. I've got that spring, and you know the spring's tapered. Okay, so the installation, that's gonna be important. We'll talk about that. I got my new piston, and then I have a clip. I have a couple of seals and my dust seal. So I have to install these seals on this piston, and they go in a particular way. My next step here, just as far as complete disassembly, would be to go ahead and cap off. Here's something I will recommend. See the Yamaha logo?
Yep.
So this is the back of the bike. This is the handlebar side. This is where you lever. It's common that this needs to face you. I want to make a point here that it fits either way. Okay? So think about that attention to detail on that. So let's take this apart. You're going to see what's going on here. This one's stuck. So here's our reservoir. We've got these two holes in there. One is a fill hole and one is a return hole. It's just that simple. All right, we're going to assemble this. We're going to, in this particular case, use a K&L Supply rebuild kit. We went ahead and cleaned this obviously really well. I mean, you could take some brushes and put it down the bore. There are tools out there that are specifically sized for this called brake hone. I showed you guys that in the lab, but what we're looking for is make sure that our bore down inside here isn't pitted. So with that in case, the piston is not going to be able to seal if we have some big heavy pits in there, so that's what we'll be checking out. As far as the assembly, it needs to be super clean. Think of this as hydraulics. We don't want any dirt or debris to be able to fall in there. So I've got this pretty clean, and as I'm looking at it myself here, do you see where I still got some crap?
Yep.
So I'm going to show you real quickly the way I like to get that off. I'm going to get away from my clean area if we can kind of move over here. And I'm just gonna take a screwdriver here. See how I actually chunked that off?
Yep.
All right, so we want that off there. There's no need to put back together a rebuilt caliper with that corrosion. Another thing we're gonna focus in here is on this little guy right here. And that's super important. That is the atmospheric vent. And let me explain how that works here. Go ahead and back up and look at this. When we have atmospheric pressure above the diaphragm and then we have the brake fluid below. So when we apply the brake fluid or as the brake pads wear, this diaphragm will stretch down. You guys have probably seen this where you pulled one of these apart and you had your diaphragm all the way expanded. That's a really good indication that your brake pads are worn. When the fluid level drops, like a lot of times you have a sight glass, the fluid level drops because why? A normal operating system. Because the brake pads are wearing, so that fluid's got to go somewhere. Well, you might have it where someone goes, oh, my brake fluid's low, and they top the fluid back off. Those brake pads are going to continue to wear, right? So do you understand the balance between checking the brake pad thickness in relationship to the reservoir actually having fluid? If I've seen this, like I said, where this is completely expanded, I would be concerned to right away look at the brake pads. Should be doing it anyway, but that's the point. So this needs to have no tears, or it should be flexible and pliable. It also should fit in here nice. If it's really super swollen, it's going to have a hard time of sealing. We don't want to get brake fluid on any of the painted surfaces like we talked about. So those are going to be good to go. And then this is the part where it gets slightly tricky as far as the assembly of this. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay out the pieces that I took apart. And what I could do here is I can model this and put this back together. Obviously pretty easy. I checked the service manual or the microfiche and saw that these are in the right order, but I'll just start to lay this out here in the same fashion. So I have this, I have my rubber cup here, I've got a couple of seals, and this part gets to be really important. That one goes that direction, and this one, oops, oh, the fat one is gonna go this way. Okay, so I'm just gonna set that there, and then this little bit skinnier one is gonna go this direction. So let's zoom in here and look at these for a second here. You can see how it's dished on one side and flat on the other. If these are put in backwards, so the whole idea, as the piston moves, it needs to push the fluid. Okay, so if I put this in backwards, it's not going to want to do that, and when I pull it, when I let go of the lever and pull it back, it's going to grab a bunch of fluid and pull it in there. So it is important how we put those on there. Whenever you install these, one thing that's nice to make sure you are super clean. I'm going to start to make a mess here. What I want to do is I'm going to take fresh, clean brake fluid and coat these rubber seals. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to stretch these around this piston. So I'll go ahead and I'll just start with this guy here. I don't want to try and drag it all the way across these threads here, if you will. I want to try and cause the minimal amount of stress. So on this thin one, I've got this good and lubed up, and I'm going to try and just put some pressure on here, and I'm going to try and walk it around. With it being lubricated, you can see here, obviously, it's a little tricky, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so I got that one on there. Watch this important part of this, okay, is make sure you rotate that. You see how that's free on there? If that didn't fully lip on there, it's gonna fail. The first time you put it in, it's just gonna fold over. So this is good and secured on there. Make sense?
Yep.
All right, I'm just kind of double checking here. This one here. So I'm gonna keep that in that same shape. And now what's gonna happen is it's gonna wanna catch on that first one. So what I'm gonna do a little trick here. Watch what I do here. I'm gonna take and put my pick through here. I want the pick to make sure I'm way over here because I'm gonna use it to stretch it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so let me see if I can do this and film this at the same time. Okay, so now I can try and walk that forward.
Those things take a lot of stress when you put them on.
They do. Go ahead, I'm just going to keep going forward. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I also got to make sure it doesn't roll on me, right?
Yep.
Okay, sounded good. Did you hear it kind of snap?
Yep.
All right, that might be slightly surprising that we're being that aggressive, but that's a real successful way I've had of getting these on there. Snap ring's gonna be this way. Let's take a look at this too. Do you remember we talked about snap rings having a flat edge or a rounded edge?
Yep.
Okay, remember the flat edge wants to be opposite the direction of thrust. And so when this is in the bore, this on the right way. You see how that's even sized?
Yep.
Okay, so when I push up against the, so I push the master cylinder up against the wall, when this comes back, and what's trying to stop it from shooting out of this master cylinder is this snap ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't it make sense then that the flat edge needs to go outwards?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so that's being really intentional. This is nowhere in a service manual. This is us understanding theory and what we got going on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some more brake fluid here, get this really good lubed up. What I'm gonna try and do is when I get it right here, kind of watch my technique, I'm gonna walk it around. You see how I did that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, if I just shoved it in there, what would it do to that? I call it the umbrella seal. What would it do to that seal?
Could tear it.
It probably won't tear it, honestly. It'll just fold it over itself.
Okay.
I need it to be in that direction in the bore. Now, you saw how I did that, so I'm gonna go ahead and go back to this position. And what I'm gonna be doing is being really intentional. I'm really watching down here now. I know you can't see that, but I'm gonna kind of do that same thing, okay? Now, the tricky part is I gotta be able to do this all at the same time while putting the snap ring in, okay? So it gets a little bit tricky. So I'm gonna preload my snap ring in the direction that I want. I want the flat side out. I'm gonna take my specialty pliers. Told you it's gonna be much easier this time though. And I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna see if I can, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put a little pressure over here. See here. Seems like it's good, right?
Yep.
But I'm gonna go ahead and get in here and we know the trick of snap rings. Let's back up and look at this. I want to be able to put a little bit of pressure in here and kind of rotate it around to really verify that I'm in my groove. See, I'm not crazy. Let's see if we can get in there. See this. Okay, can you see where there's that gap back there on the bottom? Is that snap ring in place? No, it is not. If I don't fix this, I'm gonna have problems. So I'm gonna have to fix this from above. You guys can hear that click?
Mm-hmm.
Hear that click?
Yep.
So what I'm doing is I'm just giving a little side pressure. I think we got a winner now. What do you think now?
Nice, good.
All the way around, right?
Yep.
And look how the eyelets are in there.